Ladies and gentlemen, now we're into it. This is the first big one. This is the first real lecture on the Synergy Protocol. The first unique thing you're going to encounter. In our last video, as you see here, we went over the energy systems of the body, and I've left that information on the board as kind of a reference thing to what we're going to be talking about next, and that's intensity. So how we view intensity is going to be very important for this training protocol. Normally when we talk about intensity, we're looking at how hard something is, the amount of effort. High intensity is high effort. Low intensity is low effort. High intensity is heavy resistance, lots of resistance, whether it be bands or weights or whatever the case might be, right? High effort, high resistance. High load, if we're talking about lifting weights, high load on the body. And of course, moderate and lower intensities are lower amounts of these things, all right? Generally speaking, when we're talking about intensity, okay, and we can make a direct correlation to intensity and these energy systems because we already kind of identified how long each of them work. Well, when we're talking about intensity, and I'll kind of put that right here, okay, when we're talking about intensity, way down here we have low intensity, and as energy demand increases, we have high intensity. Down here is low intensity. So if we are doing something for longer than 3 minutes, the energy demand is not that great compared to something we're doing for a few seconds that's incredibly heavy, right? So for instance, if I'm jogging for 10, 20, 30, this is going to be a low intensity thing. Whereas if I'm trying to do a mile as quickly as possible, I don't know what that would be for me. A couple minutes, but several minutes. That's going to be more of an intense thing. But it's not, that could be considered, moderately intense compared to an all-out sprint for a few seconds, okay? Likewise with lifting weights. Let's say I'm squatting, right? If I'm barbell squatting for 3 reps with monster weight, that's very, very intense. That's up here, and that is very much going to be an ATP PC system task. If I'm squatting with, say, some kind of in-between weight, we'll say like 155 for a set of 30 or something like that. That's going to be very much here, right? Maybe even a little lower. That's going to be moderate intensity. But then if I'm doing body weight squats for a period of time, several minutes, right, a set of 300 or something, that's not going to be so intense. That's very much going to be an oxidative task, all right? Which is kind of an odd thing to think about. Let's talk about that for a second. Can I lift oxidatively? This is another concept that I think is kind of unique to this training protocol. We are going to be lifting oxidatively because we're going to be lifting for periods of time at a tempo, okay? And those periods of time are going to be longer than 3 minutes in some cases. So that is very much, if you're not burning in that time frame, that is very much an oxidative task. Most people consider oxidative to be cardiovascular, and it makes sense. They're not wrong. I mean, cardiovascular activity is very oxidative. However, you can lift oxidatively. If it's a task that takes longer than 3 minutes and you're not burning terribly at the end of it, that would mean it's glycolytic, then it's very much an oxidative task. Now, this is typically how we view intensity in the world of strength and conditioning. But I'm going to look at it a little bit differently. You'll notice on every one of these cases, I kind of gave you a spectrum, right? 1 to 10 seconds, 30 to 90 seconds, 3+ minutes. That could be 3 to infinity, right? 3 to just living. We can also identify intensity within each energy system. And that's what this protocol is all about. One of the things I want to do in each session I'm training is to intensely train each one of these energy systems in a similar way. Whoa, what does that mean? Well, if I'm going to use the ATP-PC system and I want to intensely challenge it, right? And generally speaking, the ATP-PC system is high. It is the definition of high intensity, really. So any of these time frames will work, but something that's a few seconds long, right, is going to be high intensity. And something that's more along the lines of like 10 seconds is going to be low intensity for the ATP-PC system. Likewise, if I do something that's going to be about 30 seconds in length, that's going to be high intensity, whereas something more along the lines of 90 seconds is going to be low intensity for the glycolytic system. I think you're seeing where I'm going here. Likewise, an event that takes about 3 minutes is going to be an intense oxidative task, right? So over here, same thing. And I don't know why I'm writing high and low over and over again. You get the concept, right? But this could be considered an intense, a high demand oxidative task, meaning I'm not quite shifting into the dominance of this energy system yet, but I'm at the upper capacity of this one. You see what I'm saying? Now, this is the underlying principle behind the type of training I'm going to be showing you. In each session, I'm going to train the body in a way, or a muscle group in a way, that is going to intensely challenge each one of these energy systems, all right, in the same session. Why would I do this? Because think about it this way. If I do some sort of like light jogging, right, down here, well, I never really tapped into this or this. My muscles aren't completely trained. If I likewise do something like this, I'm going to go do, again, we'll use squat as the example. I'm going to do back squat for a 5x5, and I'm going to do an intense 5x5, and by the end, I'm going to do a max set of 5, a shaky, brutal set of 5. After that, I can still squat. Now, I might not be able to do strength training after that. This system might be pretty spent and need a day or couple to recover. But after that, I could take weight off the bar, and I could work in this capacity. Absolutely. Might not be pleasant, but I can do it. This portion of muscle fiber, the portion of your muscle that governs this energy system, has not been fully spent yet. All right? And, we didn't talk about muscle fiber typing. That's something for another discussion. But these systems are kind of governed by different parts of your muscle, different types of fiber. So it means that there are parts of your muscle, if you're just addressing any one of these, you know what I'm saying? There are still parts of your muscle that are quite fresh, right? It's not a completely trained muscle. Likewise, let's say I take more weight off the bar, or I just go to body weight. I can keep squatting with my body after I've kind of come to failure here. So what I'm saying is, your body has ways of getting energy in more than one way, which we kind of addressed already. What I'm going to try to do is train the muscle absolutely entirely, each system entirely in a single session. I'm going to leave nothing left. I'm going to completely train it. In the next video, we're going to talk more about what that means and how come it's important. For now, just understand that. Now, before we move on, I want to approach intensity again in a different lens, because that's what this specific lecture is all about. And I want to talk about intensity, the glycolytic system. And now I'm kind of mixing definitions, and people, again, my detractors, which I don't think exist yet because this channel only has like 4 viewers. My detractors would say, he's kind of like weirding out definitions. But again, kind of follow where I'm going here. In the glycolytic system, right, this is the time of dominance. But its limiting factor is this buildup of waste product, all right? If the chief limiting factor for this system, the thing that slows it down the most, is the ability to flush this lactic acid, flush these byproducts out of the muscle by means of capillary action, by means of your liver function, that's what reconverts these things into useful compounds, right? If that's a limiting factor, challenging that limiting factor, I think, can also be considered a sort of intense stimulus, meaning not giving appropriate recovery. And it doesn't quite fit the traditional definition of intensity, but follow me here. Let's suppose I'm going to use, and again, look at the glycolytic system. Let's suppose I start doing sets, right, of 5. They take, a set of 5, take maybe 15, 20 seconds, something like that. I start doing 5 reps, and I start doing it, say it takes 15, 20 seconds. This is what it needs for complete rest. Let's not give it that. Let's give it much less rest. Let's start giving it 30 seconds of rest. Well, I might do 1, 2 sets comfortably, but after a couple, that lactic acid doesn't start to build up and the sets are going to get harder. The weight I'm using for 5 reps here is going to become an intense weight under the demand I'm putting on the body with this low rest period. Do you understand what I'm saying? One of the ways we're going to manipulate this idea in the glycolytic system specifically is challenging its ability to recover, all right? So looking at intensity from the prospect of, at a certain weight, I'm going to be pushing this system to keep using this weight and force it to flush these byproducts quicker, force it to challenge its limiting factor. And there's going to be an interesting way we go about doing this. And we're going to talk more about that in future videos. But for now, I just wanted you to kind of get the idea of where I'm coming from with my thought process, right? We have these different energy systems. Traditionally speaking, if you follow terms of specificity, you train for strength, or train for endurance, or train for whatever, you're not completely training a muscle. You're leaving a lot of energy on the table. This training protocol, for reasons that'll be future revealed, right, is going to go in and in a similar mode, meaning the same type of exercise, the same muscle groups, I'm going to challenge all three of them in a single session at a certain intensity, okay? And it's usually going to be pretty high intensity, all right? So that's the underlying idea. That's where my brain is kind of coming from when I talk about intensity. And in future videos, we're going to be doing a lot more talking about, how to get the most out of each of these energy systems and the roles they're going to be playing in the adaptations we're going to be making simultaneously, all at once, to a greater effect, all right? So in the next video, we're going to be talking a little bit more about how to categorize fitness. We kind of have these energy systems. We're going to now be talking about the attributes with which you're going to be trying to use them to develop. All right. So the next video, we're going to be kind of reorganizing the domains of fitness.